Up next, we have Brittany Reagan, the clinical coordinator, and Brittany Howard, the clinical therapist at Agape Child and Family Services, who are going to share ways families can use literature to explore social emotional concepts.
Thank you so much, Johnny and Literacy Mid-South, for having us at Agape Child and Family Services here tonight. Just like Johnny said, we are part of our clinical services department, so we provide free counseling and therapy to students and adults in Fraser, Hickory Hill, and Whitehaven. And we're going to talk about social and emotional learning. So social emotional learning, you may have heard it called SEL, especially in the school setting. So this is just the process in which students are able to gain and apply knowledge, skills, and attitudes to then start developing healthy identities of themselves, learning how to manage their emotions, being able to achieve goals they set, learning how to show and feel empathy for others, build positive relations, and make good decisions. So there's 5 main components when you're thinking about social and emotional learning that we're going to talk about. And the first one is self-awareness. So this is being able to know and understand the emotions you feel internally. So even as adults, there's probably been a time where you've been overwhelmed with all kinds of emotions and somebody said, hey, what's going on? How are you feeling? And you're just like, I have no idea, because you're so overwhelmed. And it's the same for a kid. So it's being able to identify, I feel frustrated right now. I feel excited right now. I feel anxious right now. Then there's self-management. So being able to identify those emotions and then moving into, how do I control them? How do I manage when I'm really stressed out or really anxious? Or how do I handle it when I'm really, really excited, just want to jump up and down? And then moving into social awareness. So how do I learn and understand how others around me feel and their perspectives and thoughts and ideas? And then the fourth one is relationship skills. So how do we communicate with each other? How do we cooperate? How do we solve problems with each other? And then finally, responsible decision making. So how do we identify the problem and then move into finding a solution for the problem?
So you're probably wondering, how does social emotional learning fit with literacy? So first, our emotional health impacts our brain's ability to learn. Also, research shows that students in schools that utilize social emotional learning have positive educational outcomes, including reading. And also, social emotional learning has shown to increase students' academic performance and increase high school graduation rates. And it has also been shown to improve classroom behaviors and improve students' ability to manage their stress and emotions in the classroom. And now I'm going to pass it back to Ms. Brittany Reagan, who is going to give us an example of how these two tie together, and also to start off with some examples of some activities.
Yes, so Brittany was just talking about how important it is for us to think about our emotional health. So I want to do like a quick 30-second activity. So if you're watching, put your hand up in the air and we're going to talk through what our brain looks like. So again, 30-second, very quick, but this is our brain right here. We're going to talk about, this is our brain stem. And then we're going to fold our thumb down. This is part of our limbic system. Right here at our thumb is our amygdala, and that controls how we respond to things emotionally. It controls all of our emotions. And then you fold your fingers down. Now it looks a little bit more like a brain, thinking like right here in your head. And this first part is your prefrontal cortex, which we call our thinking brain. So when you're thinking about social and emotional learning and literacy and our educational goals, when you have your amygdala that controls your emotions, when your emotions go crazy, your amygdala just starts to go off. And it calls us, sometimes we call it flip our lid. So our thinking brain flips up, and we can't, even as students and adults, we can't access the thinking part of our brain to be able to learn. So when we start looking at social and emotional learning activities and really building our emotional health, it helps us learn how to bring our thinking brain back down, and really for students gets them in a place that they're really able and ready to learn. So we've pulled some activities that you can do hopefully with your students over the holiday break. So some of these are art activities. One of the first ones is what we call our emotion color wheel. If you get on Google, you can Google that and a million free images will pop up. I put one example here on the screen. But this just starts to help your students discuss and identify different types of emotions. So if you look at the inner circle, it's got some general emotions listed, and then as you go to the middle circle and then into the outer circle, you'll see it gives more specific words and ways to describe the emotion you're feeling. So there's so many different ways you can integrate this wheel into activities you do at home, but a few of those are just looking at it and as a family, a household, picking any color, any of the emotions, and having everyone go around and talk about a time they felt that way. Another thing you can do is get some colors and have your student pick out the color that correlates on the wheel with what they're feeling and have them draw a picture or color out that emotion. One of really my favorite ways is, as a family, pick any song, play it together, and as you're playing it, start thinking about how it makes you feel, what you start thinking about, and then draw it out or talk it out and share the emotions that you had. So this really helps with targeting that self-awareness component, one of the 5 that we talked about, and just helping your students start to learn and put words to what they are feeling internally. A couple of other art activities that you can do. So there's the partner art trade. So challenge your student to go digging in the trash, find odds and ends around the house that you're not using, and make a small craft for a gift for someone else. So you can see on the far right, I've got 2 pictures of examples of crafts that students have made just from getting stuff out of the trash can. So this really helps with social awareness, helping them be aware of what other people around them might like and enjoy, and then just building relationships as they're gift giving. And then one more art activity is our I am mirror. So pick a mirror in your house, one that you're okay with having some sticky notes on or having taped paper on. And throughout the holiday break, let everybody in your household add words that are positive affirmations about who you are, who they are. So I am brave, I am smart, I am strong, and put those on your mirror. So that way, when your student goes and looks in the mirror, they're reminded of some positive attributes of who they are. So again, it really helps with self-awareness and identifying positively internally who you are.
And here are some examples of some physical activities. So the first one is a holiday scavenger hunt. And this one targets relationship building and responsible decision making. And so this involves coming up with a list of things for everyone in the family to find around the house, and whoever finds the most wins. And then the next example is a dance party freeze, and this targets self-management or impulse control. And with this activity, you can pick your favorite song and press play, and then one family member can be in charge of yelling freeze while the music still plays. And then the children can work on the impulse control and fight the urge to keep dancing until they hear go. And then the last one on this slide is the holiday recipe. And as a family, you can Google and read some of your favorite holiday recipes. You can either pick a recipe to cook together, or you can pick one to draw a picture of. And this activity targets relationship skills and social awareness. And again, there's a lot of examples available on Google for free for each of these activities.
There's a few practical activities too that you can do over the holiday break. So your students are coming out of school. They've been in a very structured, routine environment, and it can be nice to have a breath of fresh air and maybe a little less structure and routine, but it can also be nice to still keep a little bit of that. So there's special holiday chore charts that you can find, again, on Google for free. You can create that with your student, identify a few chores that they can do, and it really helps them with just controlling self-management and just making responsible decisions. One other thing that you can do is create a calm down space. So a lot of our schools have calm down corners, reset rooms, etc. So you can create a special holiday space in your own home. And holidays can be overwhelming in general, but let's just be honest. We've all lived in the middle of a pandemic and are still living in the middle of a pandemic. And holidays can bring about extra emotions, can bring about anxiety if you're with a big group. So all kinds of emotions during the holidays, and a calm down corner can just be a place where you go and take a minute, reset yourself, have some good positive self-care. So it can be any spot in the home. You can put any type of items in there that make sense for you and your family and your student. It might be just a blanket, it might be some headphones and some music, it might be a journal, some coloring pages, etc. But it really helps with your self-awareness and being able to identify when your emotions are becoming overwhelming, and self-management when you know you need to have some space to try to calm down and re-regulate yourself.
And lastly, we have some reading and writing activities. So in regards to reading, there's an example called To Make the Grinch Smile. And there's an example on the slide. And so each day over the holiday break, each family member comes up with one idea to make the Grinch smile. And this targets relationship building and decision making. And another example would be journal prompts. And this involves picking a different question for the students to answer. And an example could be, what's your favorite part of the holiday? And this activity targets self-awareness, self-management, and relationship building. And for reading, we have books. And it's fitting that we had representatives from the Memphis Public Library come on before us, because they talked a little bit about their services. And a lot of these books that we'll be discussing are available at Memphis Public Libraries. And so the first one is When I Feel Scared, which talks about emotions like sadness and anxiousness that children can feel. And then the book Today I Feel Silly, it discusses emotions in general that children will feel. And then the book My Mouth is a Volcano, that talks about teaching children to think before they speak. The book Jabari Jumps, it talks about bravery and overcoming your fears. And lastly, Stand Tall, Molly Lou Mellon, it talks about bullying. So again, we wanted to thank you all for having us this evening. If you have any questions, you can contact my supervisor, Ms. Brittany Reagan, or myself, Brittany Howard. And I hope you all have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you guys so much, Brittany. That was a really great resources and book recommendations too. And I'm going to work on keeping my thinking brain flipped down.